Now, though, we're going to talk about social media. John Morter's going to join us because taking a break from social media apparently might help you relax better, but it also leads to lower levels of life satisfaction. Effectively, can you go on a diet from social media? John, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Now, I would imagine that it's probably not a bad idea for people to take a break from their social media because it's one of the things I would think that very few people do.
I would agree with that. It's the way you communicate now, isn't it, really? Let's face it. And so to take a break, you are almost cutting yourself off from the rest of the world, aren't you, really?
Well, you really are, because we've become so reliant on it. I mean, certainly from the... I mean, I say I do it for work, and I largely do. But, of course, most of my information now comes via Twitter or either my iPad or my phone. I very rarely actually pick up a newspaper unless I happen to be in the office where there are newspapers. I don't buy one and read one on the train. You know, I mean, I'm on Twitter all the time. I use Instagram to keep in touch with my kids. You know what I mean? It's like it would be very, very hard for me to do. Sometimes when I'm on holiday, I'll just spend the whole day and not go anywhere near the phone.
Yeah, well, the way I look at this is quite simple. Back in the 90s, would you have just stopped answering the phone and switched and stopped buying newspapers? That's kind of the way I see it, really. But don't forget, with social media, it's a little bit more lucid. You can control it that little bit better. You know, if there's certain things that you get bored of, Brexit we've been talking about today. I mean, you don't have to follow the people that constantly talk about it, you know, if that gets you down. So you can adapt it to a little bit, really. So for me personally, I couldn't ever take a break. And yes, social media can be a pain in the backside at times, but you know, I just I'm careful with who I follow, with who I'm who I'm friends with as such, but you can mute people as well. So there is ways you can actually just, you know, control it your own way.
No, of course. And I mean, as we get more sort of used to it, I feel like, and I know that's going to sound slightly mad because we should be used to it by now, you know, we will manage it better, won't we? I think as a population, as a matter of course, just because, you know, it's still relatively new for people.
It is indeed, yeah, and people are still discovering sort of tools that you can use. I mean, a good example is on Twitter and Facebook, they've had lists, you know, Twitter and Facebook lists, and that's a facility where you can only listen or view certain, you know, people that you want to listen to. Right. So, for example, I'm a Formula One fan. I have a Twitter list and a Facebook list of just news items that come through for Formula One.
So, do you check that on a regular basis, or do you have that on all the time?
I have it on when I want it on. So, for example, when the Formula One season's on a Sunday when the races are on, I put my Formula One Twitter list on. Okay. And everyone else, including yourself, I'm afraid, doesn't get a look in.
That's a shocking admission, that. Blimey. So unless, Mike, of course, I join your Formula One list, presumably. Or do you put me... You'd have to put me on it, presumably.
I would have to put you on it, but you can also follow other people's lists. You can do it on Facebook as well. And these facilities have been there for years. I mean, and I use them often, and I encourage people to use them. So you can, in a way, without having to unfriend people, you know, if you get that certain person that constantly goes on about politics or about their football team, whatever, you can, to be honest with you, I'm not just as bad, and I get sort of switched out of people's social as well quite often.
Well, because of what I do, of course. I mean, I have a lot of people that follow me and then tweet me for one reason or another, many of whom get extremely abusive, and I will I tend not to block people, but I will mute people if that's all they're going to do, you know?
Well, exactly, yeah, and if you mute people, they have no idea you've muted them as well. So, you know, I've muted, I don't know how many hundreds of people, to be honest with you, and I don't know what sort of stuff I get, but I think that's a really... It's kind of a necessary evil to a point. I think you have to do that. Otherwise, you could go mad. You literally could get people from, as you do, Mike, I've seen on your Twitter, where, you know, people with opinions are fine, but, you know, it can get too much. And if you have to use those facilities that Facebook and Twitter give you, where you can mute people, or you can have your own lists. And I think that's really important, rather than just switching off social media completely.
Because there have been times, and I've been involved in you know, various rows with various people, and it is quite difficult to put the phone down if you're in the midst of that, because you're going, right, well, now I've got to answer all these people, I've got to answer that person, I've got to answer this person, otherwise they'll think that I've sort of given up. You know what I mean? It's very seductive, I suppose, is what the word I'm looking for.
Again, I think you're right on that. I think that I think there was an article out yesterday or today where many people apparently do actually get up in the night to check their Instagram and to check their
I'm
phone,
not that bad,
which is incredible.
I know,
but that does happen. I've got teenage sons, and sometimes they're still awake at 2 a.m. and they're tapping away on their social media.
Do you not take their phones off them then, or at any point?
No. I think when you get to your teenage years, you should really be, you'd
like to think that they should be sensible, but you kind of know in your heart of hearts that they're not that sensible, don't you?
That could be a whole new debate about how you bring them up, couldn't it?
Well, it could. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not saying that you should take the phone off them. I'm saying some people do that. Because sometimes you find that teenagers are not very good at monitoring themselves or controlling their own urges.
But then would you argue, perhaps then, that they'd only rebel against you and they'd find a way? Yeah. There's always ways of getting around it. So,
but that's a bit like saying we might as well not have laws against murder because people will kill each other.
It's kind of different, though, isn't it, really, I think?
Well, I don't think so. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it. But, I mean, the other thing is that they did this study in Australia where they took people's access to Facebook away from them for 5 days to see whether it made them feel any better or have a better outlook on life. And they didn't find that much of a difference, funnily enough.
No, I think it was the University of Queensland, I believe, that conducted it. Right. And the reports back there, you're quite right, that they don't feel that their lives actually improved by not having social media. Which, as I said, at the end of the day, it's the communication levels, it's communication that everyone has these days. And it would be literally like in the old days, switching your phone off, which is fine. But if you're in a business or you need to know how your friends are doing, you can't find out, and so you'll only, when you come back on it, catch up at some point. Right. So does it make a difference? I don't think it does personally, but if people want to do that and switch off for a week or so, then that's fine. But I just think it's just how you manage your social media more importantly.
Yes, no, I think you're absolutely right. Fascinating stuff, John. Thank you very much indeed. John Morter, there, social media expert on this subject of taking a sort of holiday, if you like, from Facebook. A lot of people not using it quite in the same way, I think, since we discovered that they were taking all sorts of information and doing all sorts of things with it. But if you've ever taken a holiday from social media, did it make you feel better? Or did it not make any difference at all? 0344 499 1000. Coming up, we'll take more of your calls and we'll find out if you can ever really properly be friends with your ex. This is Talk Radio.